So Wyatt, we just finished up the tour here at KWI. What was your favorite part, or what stuck out to you? Because I know that you mentioned like the boiler simulator a lot. Just curious on why you liked it.
Yeah, so just the schools I've gone to in the past or whatnot, and like the other tours I've gone on, I've never really seen simulators very often in other like welding schools. Just having that tool available to you to be able to practice those tight spots and those different, laying on the ground and TIG welding or stick welding or whatever, just being able to have that extra little bit of a challenge I think is really cool.
Right. Well, and that's a big thing too, and you've seen it. You were talking about it earlier, is you have to be comfortable before you start welding. And so I think one of the big things with the welding industry is if you're going to go in the industry, make sure that you're getting trained with being uncomfortable most of the time. That way you can figure out how to get comfortable in those situations. Because just like we mentioned earlier, we put our students on the floor welding, up in the air, in the boiler simulator, in the pipe rack, and that, again, mimics the real world experience. Because as you know, if you weld in the booth for a long period of time, you can kind of mentally put yourself in a bind because you're not out of position or in a weird spot.
Yeah, you're comfortable sitting on a table, running a little
Exactly.
coupon, versus doing a simulator where you're
in a ditch somewhere or something, right?
Yeah.
And so it's totally different. So with that being said, and I'm kind of curious myself, what's, you welded in high school, you mentioned high school got you into skills, right?
Yep,
Welding.
correct. Yep.
And so you just went hard at it the whole experience. Like, what was getting ready for skills like in high school? Because I never did it as hardcore as you did. So what's that like?
So the first year I tried to compete for it. I lost the school competition. So back in Utah, we have the schools. You have a competition that selects a competitor that represents the school.
Okay.
That goes to state.
Okay.
And part of Utah has the regional competitions, and then the other half doesn't. I live in the other half that doesn't have the regionals. So anyways, I lost the first year. Second year, I won the spot at the school as a post-secondary student, so as a college student, and I just went hard at it, and got first place at state. Went to nationals the first year. I got really cocky, in my head the first year, and choked really bad at nationals. I got 12th the first year. Had a good wake-up call. The second year I went and did state and nationals. I hit it hard. I got gold at state and gold at nationals as a post-secondary student.
Okay. And then you went to Lyon, France.
Yeah, so that's a whole new level of skill and all the new training
and prep too.
Yeah, the prep.
Like, it's serious. Like, it's no joke. Like, you're representing America. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
And from the videos that we've been doing the last couple of days, we can really tell that you spent a lot of time training, because there's little movements that you do or little things that you do that I pick up on, like, oh, he does that for a reason. There's a reason that you do that to make it as good as possible, because you're competing against some of the best welders in the world.
Yep.
So you have to come up with tricks and things that you do to get to that level. So with that being said, you competed in France and you did really well. You represented America. What's the future look like for you now? Maybe there's someone out there who might want to follow in your footsteps and is curious as to what you're doing next, because I am. I'm curious. What's your goals? Where are you headed?
So I'm looking into some different jobs right now just to get some experience, possibly looking into going to welding engineering school or coming to a school like KWI just to get a little bit more experience before I go out in the real world. And then eventually I'm planning on starting my own welding business. And so that's kind of what I'm working up towards, just whatever little building blocks, whatever experience I got to get to or get done to then start my own thing eventually. So that's the plan.
Now, what would you say the most important piece of advice about the welding industry or just welding in general that somebody can take and run with and apply to their learning experience, whether it's in high school, college, or if they're already out in the industry?
Oh man, I got a lot of good things to say about that. So some of the big tips I have is, stay humble, work hard, try to have a good positive attitude. Attitude makes or breaks you. So if you have a cocky attitude or you think you're hot stuff and you're really not, you need to get that in check. You need to be in the booth every day, welding your heart out, because that's what it takes to get to be the best in the world. Watching training with the Koreans and the Chinese and doing our little competitions before World or whatnot, you can see they've been training for 5-6 years. Where
Just for that,
where I was only training for a year and a half for
right.
that competition. Plus, I had some of the state and nationals and whatnot. But that level, they're training, like I said, 5 or 6 years.
Just to do that.
Yeah.
That's the difference, huh?
Yeah, so putting in the work, stay humble, work hard, and it's really easy to get discouraged. So make sure you're doing everything you can to, keep loving it, and yeah.
Make it enjoyable for yourself in
Yep.
your own way. Because we were talking earlier, you were like, you would weld something for a certain amount of time and you'd get pissed off or something, and you'd have to switch something else. So I think,
Yeah, you don't see any progress, you start going downhill. So the way I did it when I was training is if I was struggling on something, I would switch over to something else that I was more comfortable with and more proficient in.
Yep.
Then I'd jump back over after I played around with that,
Yep.
whatever welding procedure or welding coupon, jump back over and start knocking that project out again, or that welding coupon out, or whatever it was, you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
And I have it's really cool being able to, work that hard and represent my country in France and just around the world, competing against all those other competitors. America, everybody from around the world, they see American as a really strong nation, and so going and being a part of that,
Right.
it was such an honor, man. It was an amazing experience.
And so now, with that being said, and you did that, do you have the opportunity to train future American welders getting ready for this competition?
Yeah.
So you'll always have a part of it.
Yep.
Wow.
Hopefully that's the plan. I love it. It's been a big part of my life, and I hope to
Yeah.
give back to the kids and the individuals that want to do the same thing. I want to give back.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's a little bit.
You get to train the next contestant. You know what I mean? I mean, in this, we're not trying to kill each other. But, you know what I mean? You're training the next welders to try to win. So that's pretty cool. You're like Haymitch of the Hunger Games.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit earlier about how I took 12th at Nationals the first year. It got really discouraging, and I've heard of a lot of kids, like talking to different individuals, a couple of kids here, they had gone to the state and they didn't do very well. The biggest thing is like, yeah, you get discouraged, you didn't do as good as you wanted to do, but the biggest thing is having the attitude of, well, I'm going to prove myself wrong, I'm going to prove to myself that I can go as far as I want. And the thing is too, is you have to want it really bad.
Right.
At that level, you're 7 days a week, from 7 or 8 in the morning until 10 or 11 at night. You're prepping your own material, you're welding the whole entire time, from a year and a half basically at that point.
Right.
And so and you're not getting paid for it.
Right.
Yeah, you're getting the sponsors, you're getting all, like, you don't have very many costs. You have your own housing costs, food, whatnot, but
Right. Everything else is taken care of.
Yeah. And so you have to really want, that's the thing, is a lot of kids that do this, the world skills stuff, is they struggle with wanting, like, their desire.
reason.
Yeah. They
Why-
have the
why are
wrong
they doing
reasons.
it?
Yeah. So a lot of the kids would be talking to that I would competed against to win
The Nationals. Right?
no, at the world, like,
Oh, really?
yeah, because it's a competition, a series of little competitions that lead up to who gets selected to go.
Oh, geez.
And so one of the questions they ask us, they set us down, we have a meeting, we go over some of our scores from the past few competitions, and then they ask you, like, well, why do you want to be here? And some of the answers that I heard from my trainers after we got talking about it was, oh, I want to be the best, like, I want to smoke everybody, I want to have the bragging rights, or I think it's really cool to learn this, but they're not like 100% into it, you know what I mean? And then I can't quite remember the answer that I gave them, but it was on the lines of, like, this is something that I wanted to do forever, and I want to prove to myself that I can do this, and to prove and to be able to represent our country the best that I can, be the best representative for our country, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Who else is going to do it?
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, no better person than yourself, who's been wanting to do it for such a long time and have been planning for it and setting yourself up. And so that's why you did it. I mean, you had a better reason and motive than most people that just wanted to do it for bragging rights, or they just, I don't know, thought it was cool, Like, if you got first, if you made it really easy to Worlds, do you think you would have the same answer, or would it be a different answer?
It would be a completely different answer. Like, having those struggles and, not doing as good as I wanted to at the earlier stages, I wouldn't have, like, respected and honored and enjoyed it as much and felt more accomplished, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just really cool process seeing yourself struggle, and then, the best way to learn is to do it the hard way, to learn the hard way, because it's going to sink, it's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Right.
And so just doing that, so it's more gratifying, struggling and having all that happen, and then going and, taking third in the world. So I wanted to say this really quick. It was a 7 or 8 year goal.
To do that.
Yeah. So it was
Really?
a long process.
Jeez.
And
And
a lot of-
mental one too.
Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs in the first couple of years because I learned about it when I was like 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
I always wanted to do it, thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then as you go along, you realize of how you start to respect the competition and the level of training and whatnot. And that's where those
And what
struggles.
goes into it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of been planning for this for a long time. You really just, you didn't happen upon it your senior year or whatever. You know, you've like, it's planned and calculated.
Yep.
So anybody who wants to do it, they need to start thinking about it sooner than later.
Yeah, and the sooner you get into it, the more time you're going to have to train
Yeah.
for it, and the better off you're going to be.
And it happens every year, right?
Every other year.
Every other year.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first year, so last year was a selection process, or 2 years ago was a selection process, and then after the year's up, then you get selected, and then you train for about a year, and then you go to the competition. Then you have a couple months where we're not training anybody, we're not doing anything, we're just getting ready, everything in the background.
Yeah.
Just getting all ready to go.
Right.
We're planning trips, planning the trainings, getting material, getting everything ready to go. And then we start the selection process all over again.
Gotcha. Well, and it's cool because you'll have a hand in that
Yeah.
moving forward. So it's not like it's just going to be in your life and then out of your life. Like it's something that you can always be a part of because you've been planning for it for a while. So you might as well just be a part of it and continue in helping America try to be the best. You know?
Yeah,
So
that's the goal. Is one of these next World Skills, we're gonna try to have the one of our guys be the number one.
freak, I hope, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So right on. That's awesome. No, but still, in itself, again, going to World Skills as a competitor is amazing in itself. But those other guys, they do it. They train their whole lives for it, which you have too. But you have your own life you got to live too, so you got to balance it. But I don't know. Those guys, it just seems like they're just, hey, listen, buddy, you're gonna go to World Skills and weld, and you need to do that every day of your life until it happens, you know.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what it is, and that's what we're competing up against, you know.
Yeah,
So-
and they're government funded. They have a bunch of different companies funding them, and like you're saying, they're pretty much.
So is it a bigger deal in other countries than America?
It's way bigger, yeah.
Really?
Like World Skills in the U.S. hardly exists versus all these other countries. There's 42 competitions, I believe. They have 42 competitors, and they got a competitor in every event. And like China, Korea, and a couple of the other countries, they hammer down, and they're super serious about it. And they're almost in every competition. They're like placing really high, if not podium, and like on the podium almost every time.
Because they're just so into it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing someone's going to have to figure out is if you want to do it, you're going to have to find time to live your life and take care of other things while you're trying to be the best.
Not even that. I set aside my life for 3 years
To do
doing
this.
state and nationals and then going to worlds. I set aside pretty much everything.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah. I set aside had a bunch of money put away, sold my truck, sold almost everything,
Wow.
and dedicated my life literally to it. And that's what you got to do to be the best.
Yeah. That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's a small progression the whole entire, yeah. Because I went from scoring I thought I was a decent welder, and then I started training for it, and I was scoring like 50, 60%.
Wow.
And I had just won nationals, you think, oh,
You're
I got
good,
this in the
right.
bag. Yeah, no,
You're back on the bottom.
Yeah, they're pressure vessel, you're pressuring up your vessel 1,000 PSI, you're doing x-rays and bend tests on all your plates you're doing, your stainless and your aluminum, the criteria is so tight,
Wow.
half a millimeter on your butt joints. They're measuring corner radius, they're measuring, your bead height, say you have a V groove, they're measuring your height variation across it, they're measuring your total height, they're measuring everything.
Right. Well, and like we were talking earlier, I mean, you're knocking your edges down with the hammer to make it smooth. And I mean, I looked at it and I was like, oh, there's no undercut. But you're like, oh, there's undercut. And I was like, okay, well, that's totally different. In my world of welding, that's fine. But in competition skills, it's totally different. Everything matters. Every little detail, every little second, every angle, everything matters.
Basically, at that level, you're trying to weld better than a robot.
Right.
And
getting 1% better each day.
Yeah.
And just enjoying it though. But you have to get to the point where you do enjoy it too. Because a lot of people, like Noah was talking a minute ago, a lot of people they work and then winning is the enjoyment or the fulfillment, but I think with this is so much more deeper and a longer experience and process that you have to enjoy getting there. Don't wait till you get there. Like you have to like it.
Yeah.
Getting up to that.
Yeah, because you will not progress
No.
at all. You will go backwards at this level. You will tank so fast.
You gotta set
if you start
goals.
waiting, yeah. So I was setting goals and planning out what I was going to be working on per the week, and it would always change. Being able to adapt in this competition was very, very important.
Right.
Watching what I was scoring, how I was scoring, what I had to do to get those scores. You know, learning to make welding, like, say my vessel, learning how to get it done faster. I think the first one I ever did was like 14, 15 hours, and you had to cut it clear down to like 8 hours.
Golly.
And
okay.
and like I said, it has to score really high, has to hold pressure, and like we were talking about, that criteria, so tight.
Gotcha. So start to finish is 8 hours?
So the competition's actually like an 18 to 22 hour competition that happens over 3 to 4 days. It all depends on the vessel they choose, what plates they choose, what
Everything.
they're able to change. So it's kind of like state and nationals in a way. They send you out the prints. You have a rough idea of what it's going to be, but then they're able to make changes up to 30% on your vessel, and you have there's 16 to 18 different test plates that they select from, and you're able to, like, you have to be scoring 90s or 100s on every one of those test plates, and they're only going to select 5 of them, and so those are like your really big money points.
Gotcha.
Right? Those are the big ones that you have to hit 90s or 100s on your test plates to be able to even score in the top 3.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of information we could dive down a lot of rabbit holes right now.
Yeah.
No, they're not looking at the quality of the weld at all. They're looking, it literally just you have a piece of paper, and they have all your measuring, your calipers, your fillet weld gauges, all that stuff, and that's all they're looking at. They don't even care what the weld looks like. They're measuring, and if it's a yes or no criteria, so did you, yeah, it's all functional. But at that level, if you're hitting and you're scoring on those functional points, normally the welds look freaking insane, because they're super straight. All the beads are perfect. I mean, all your little dimes, everything's like.
Is this?
This is the pressure vessel. You can go through and show.
I'm getting 4 daily vitamins of this
This is a
thing.
functional work of art, dude.
Legendary energy.
Dude, you get to keep that.
Lincoln actually has it in Cleveland, Ohio, I believe. So you have the TIG, you have all the 4 different processes. You have carbon steel TIG, you got MIG, flux core, stick. You got stick welds, MIG welds, more stick welds, TIG welds, flux core. So this is the MIG side, GMAW side, and then this side's all your flux core. And keep in mind, you're like a millimeter or 2 variation
Yeah.
in some of these welds.
Looks phenomenal.
Like all your starts and stops, you have to
Well,
be
you
able
gotta
to
be
wrap.
smart about it. Like
Yeah.
you want to do all the verticals and then wrap them with the top and bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so like in all the videos where I'm saying, you know, you want to wrap and cover your starts and stops, this is what I mean. Like,
Oh yeah.
you start down here,
Yep.
you can't even see it.
Exactly.
You're covering everything
right,
up.
Right.
So we got 1 stop right here. We got 1 stop on that corner. We got 1 stop in each one of those welds. You know what I mean?
With that being as detailed and precise as it is, did most of the contestants have their starts and stops in the same spot? Like, did everybody figure out where the best spot to stop was, or no? Was it different?
So every country has their own style of welding, and so Korea, China, the U.S., Brazil, we all kind of had the similar style. This is a new style for the U.S. Like I didn't really copy all these other countries, but like I've seen some welds from the previous competitors. So for example, Chandler Vincent, he had a lot of these similar weld patterns going on, and so that's who my trainer was. One of my trainers was Chandler Vincent. You got Ray Conley, Brandon Mulebrandt, and that whole entire committee, U.S. Weld Trials Committee. Anyways, just looking at all their previous stuff.
Jeez.
In their previous vessels, that's what we came up with, which, like I said, is really similar to.
Yeah, certain styles of welding.
Yeah, so
There's different ways you can do it too. There's
Yeah,
like
there's so many different
so many
ways.
different ways.
I think just in the past, just for training for this competition, I did the math one day. It was like roughly 9,000 to 10,000 hours, just for a year and a half. So in total, it was probably 25,000 hours. So the competition consists of 4 different modules. You have your pressure vessel, stainless, aluminum, and then all your test plates.
Gotcha.
And so I don't think I ever got a picture of my aluminum. They end up cutting it in half to look at the inside weld penetration. But you can just see.
Yeah.
So our vessels between the countries were all pretty similar, like weld style wise. But the stainless and aluminum and the test plates are where our weld styles really like, changed. Yeah. So like Korea and China, they'll actually take their cup and they kind of walk the cup on this really thin stainless, and they have their pulse setting. They'll max it out on that. No, they max it at like 30. So on the Lincoln 300C, the max is like 35.6 or 36.5, roughly around that range. Let's say 35 pulses per second at like 90 amps, and they're walking the cup and dabbing, and so it has this really cool pattern.
No, how is the pattern? Is it like 2 or is it like 3? Or
it's it almost looks like a figure 8, like kind of weave, but it's not. It's like a more wetted in version of it, versus like what I was doing, where I was running pulse. So it would, you got a couple of seconds, pop, you watch it come back, hits it again, and you do your dabs.
But you're freehanding it though, right?
No, I was using a TIG finger. At that level, you gotta be as stable, as comfortable as you can get.
Right, but you're still freehanding it with the TIG finger.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha, but they were walking it.
Yeah. Some of the stuff, some of it was
when
not.
you're walking the cup on stainless though, doesn't it leave a cut mark?
Yeah, so you can actually see, my little cut marks right here.
Yeah.
Coming up and around. So I did actually.
Do they dock you for that? Gotcha, because they understand it's the cut mark.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
so how many individual pieces did you build?
In the competition?
Yeah.
So you have one stainless project, one aluminum, pressure vessel, and then you have 5 different test plates. You have a 10 mil plate, which is a V groove, 16 mil plate, which is a V groove. You have 4-inch Schedule 80, and then you have 2 T joints. They're a 12 millimeter bar that have been machined down, that they gouge your welds out, and then they break it to see the inside of your fillet weld.
Okay.
So if you have complete joint penetration on your fillet weld.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there, but like again, what you're saying, you've been planning for it for a while, so you had to get used to welding different alloys and materials for that whole time.
Yep.
It's pretty wild.
The only reason I even did the competition and did as well as I did is because I learned about it years ago. A lot of people, I didn't even know what it really consisted of up until I started diving into it and figuring it out, you know what I mean? So like shooting a video like this and posting it.
Will help people in America
to be like, oh, hey, there's this competition.
Yeah.
It's like the welding Olympics.
Yeah, what if they're freaking like 10 years old and they figure out about it? That's even better, you know?
Yeah.
When did you figure it out, about 13 or something?
About 13, yeah.
All right, guys, if you want to learn from one of the best welders in the country and the world, and if you are interested in being a skills competitor, just like Wyatt was, he found out at the age of 13. If you're younger than that, if you're older than that, still, shoot for it if you want to go to be a skills competitor as a welder. But these videos that we're shooting the next couple days with Wyatt are going to help you guys greatly on knowing what it takes to be the welder that it takes to be in the SkillsUSA competition. So we're doing all the processes and all the different angles and tips and tricks that Wyatt has for you guys if you want to get to Wyatt's level, or if you want to set a goal to be like Wyatt, because he's a pretty phenomenal person and a really good welder. So check out our YouTube channel, linked down below, as well as kwi.us for more information on SkillsUSA competitions, but especially the YouTube videos for Wyatt and his tips and secrets on how to compete in the world skills level.